Marcus Reed checked his phone for the 9th time in 15 minutes, his leather briefcase balanced on his knee. The divorce attorney's office felt suffocating despite its spacious design, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle's skyline, modern art on cream-colored walls, expensive furniture that whispered success. None of it mattered. He just wanted this over. "Mr. Reed, perhaps we should give Dr. Okoye a call?" Attorney Linda Chen suggested gently, her pen hovering over the unsigned papers spread across her mahogany desk. Marcus nodded, jaw tight. This was typical Natasha, brilliant, passionate, and completely unreliable when it came to anything she deemed less important than her work. Even their divorce apparently didn't warrant punctuality. The door burst open with such force that both Marcus and Linda jumped. But it wasn't Natasha who stood there, chest heaving and eyes blazing with fury. It was Keisha Okoye, Natasha's younger sister, and the sight of her sent cold dread spiraling through Marcus's gut. Keisha looked like she'd been running, her athletic jacket was unzipped, her usually neat braids were disheveled, and her dark eyes held something that made Marcus's blood freeze. Not sadness. Anger. Pure, unadulterated rage directed straight at him. "You," she said, her voice shaking. "You're sitting here ready to sign papers while my sister is missing?" Marcus stood so quickly his chair rolled backward. "What are you talking about? Where's Natasha?" "Gone." Keisha stepped fully into the office, her hands clenched into fists. "She went to investigate a signal last night. Some kind of electromagnetic anomaly in the Cascade foothills. She was supposed to check in every hour. The last transmission I got was at midnight, 15 hours ago." The room tilted. Marcus gripped the edge of the desk. "Did you call the police? Search and rescue?" "Of course I did. They can't mobilize for another 6 hours, protocol for missing adults who aren't considered endangered." "But Marcus, you don't understand. Natasha found something. Her last message said she was making contact. Then nothing." Linda cleared her throat. "Perhaps we should postpone this meeting, you think?" Keisha's laugh was bitter. "My sister might be hurt or worse, and her soon-to-be ex-husband is more concerned about his afternoon golf game." "That's not fair," Marcus said, but the words felt hollow. How many times had he prioritized a meeting over Natasha's excited calls about potential discoveries? How many times had he dismissed her passion for astrobiology as an obsession that would never amount to anything practical? The answer was too many. Far too many. Keisha thrust her phone toward him, showing a map with a red pin dropped in a remote location. "These are her last coordinates. I'm going out there now. I thought you should know, since legally you're still her emergency contact. Though God knows why she never changed that." Each word was a knife, and Marcus felt every cut. He grabbed his coat from the chair. "I'm coming with you." "No." Keisha's voice was flat. "You lost the right to care about her when you stopped showing up for her life." "Keisha, please." Something in Marcus's voice must have conveyed his desperation because she paused. "I know I failed her. I know I became exactly the kind of person she couldn't respect, obsessed with venture capital deals and networking events while she was trying to answer fundamental questions about our place in the universe. But she's still my wife. Let me help find her." Keisha studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded. "Fine. But if you slow me down or get in my way, I will leave you in the woods. Understood?" "Understood." As they hurried out of the office, Linda called after them about rescheduling, but Marcus wasn't listening. His mind raced with possibilities, each one worse than the last. Natasha injured and unable to call for help. Natasha lost in the wilderness as temperature dropped. Natasha encountering something dangerous in her relentless pursuit of proof that humanity wasn't alone. He'd spent the last year telling himself their divorce was inevitable, that they'd simply grown apart. That her obsession with finding extraterrestrial intelligence had driven an irreparable wedge between them. But now, faced with the possibility that he might never see her again, Marcus understood with painful clarity that he'd been lying to himself. He still loved her. He'd never stopped loving her. He'd just stopped fighting for her, stopped believing her dreams mattered, stopped being the partner she deserved. As Keisha's Jeep peeled out of the parking garage, Marcus sent a silent prayer into the universe. Natasha had spent her career trying to understand. Please let her be alive. Please give me one more chance to make this right. Gone. Keisha stepped fully into the office, her hands clenched into fists. She went to investigate a signal last night. Some kind of electromagnetic anomaly in the Cascade foothills. She was supposed to check in every hour. The last transmission I got was at midnight, 15 hours ago. The room tilted. Marcus gripped the edge of the desk. Did you call the police? Search and rescue? Of course I did. They can't mobilize for another 6 hours, protocol for missing adults who aren't considered endangered. But Marcus, you don't understand. Natasha found something. Her last message said she was making contact. Then nothing. Linda cleared her throat. Perhaps we should postpone this meeting. You think? Keisha's laugh was bitter. My sister might be hurt or worse, and her soon-to-be ex-husband is more concerned about his afternoon golf game. That's not fair, Marcus said, but the words felt hollow. How many times had he prioritized a meeting over Natasha's excited calls about potential discoveries? How many times had he dismissed her passion for astrobiology as an obsession that would never amount to anything practical? The answer was too many. Far too many. Keisha thrust her phone toward him, showing a map with a red pin dropped in a remote location. These are her last coordinates. I'm going out there now. I thought you should know, since legally you're still her emergency contact. Though God knows why she never changed that. Each word was a knife, and Marcus felt every cut. He grabbed his coat from the chair. I'm coming with you. No. Keisha's voice was flat. You lost the right to care about her when you stopped showing up for her life. Keisha, please. Something in Marcus's voice must have conveyed his desperation because she paused. I know I failed her. I know I became exactly the kind of person she couldn't respect, obsessed with venture capital deals and networking events while she was trying to answer fundamental questions about our place in the universe. But she's still my wife. Let me help find her. Keisha studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded. Fine. But if you slow me down or get in my way, I will leave you in the woods. Understood? Understood. As they hurried out of the office, Linda called after them about rescheduling, but Marcus wasn't listening. His mind raced with possibilities, each one worse than the last. Natasha injured and unable to call for help. Natasha lost in the wilderness as temperature dropped. Natasha encountering something dangerous in her relentless pursuit of proof that humanity wasn't alone. He'd spent the last year telling himself their divorce was inevitable, that they'd simply grown apart. That her obsession with finding extraterrestrial intelligence had driven an irreparable wedge between them. But now, faced with the possibility that he might never see her again, Marcus understood with painful clarity that he'd been lying to himself. He still loved her. He'd never stopped loving her. He'd just stopped fighting for her, stopped believing her dreams mattered, stopped being the partner she deserved. As Keisha's Jeep peeled out of the parking garage, Marcus sent a silent prayer into the universe Natasha had spent her career trying to understand. Please let her be alive. Please give me one more chance to make this right. Part 2, The Search Begins. The drive into the Cascade foothills felt endless. Keisha drove with controlled aggression, navigating winding forest roads with barely contained fury radiating from her rigid posture. Marcus sat in tense silence, watching dense evergreens blur past the window. She called me the night before she asked for the divorce, Keisha said suddenly, her voice cutting through the tension. Do you know what she said? Marcus swallowed hard. Keisha. She said she felt invisible. That she'd spent 5 years married to someone who looked right through her. Keisha's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Natasha, who has a doctorate in astrobiology, who's published in every major journal, who's brilliant and passionate and dedicated, she felt invisible because you couldn't be bothered to see her. You're right. The admission tasted like ash. Damn right I'm right. Keisha took a sharp turn, the Jeep's tires spitting gravel. She tried everything, Marcus. She invited you to her lectures. She wanted to share her research. She planned date nights you cancelled. And when she finally gave up, you seemed relieved. Each accusation landed like a physical blow because they were true. Marcus had been relieved when Natasha stopped trying, when their marriage became a polite arrangement of two people sharing space without demanding anything from each other. I was an idiot, he said quietly. I let the most important thing in my life slip away because I was too arrogant to see what I was losing. Keisha glanced at him, something shifting in her expression. Not forgiveness, but perhaps a crack in her anger. Then prove it. Help me find her, and maybe you can tell her that yourself. Natasha's research van sat abandoned in a small clearing, its door hanging open. Equipment was scattered around, electromagnetic sensors, spectrographic analyzers, her laptop open on the hood showing data streams that meant nothing to Marcus but everything to her. Natasha. Keisha's voice echoed through the trees. Natasha, where are you? No response. Just wind through pine needles and the distant call of a crow. Marcus examined the equipment, noting how carefully it was arranged despite appearing abandoned. She left in a hurry, but she was documenting something. Look, the sensors are still recording. Keisha studied the laptop screen, her scientific training evident in how quickly she interpreted the data. These readings are impossible. The electromagnetic signature is off any known spectrum. It's not terrestrial. What does that mean? It means my sister found what she was looking for. Wonder and fear mixed in Keisha's voice. It means first contact might have actually happened, and we have no idea if she's safe. They followed a trail of disturbed undergrowth deeper into the woods. The air felt different here, charged somehow, making the hair on Marcus's arm stand up. Then Keisha stopped so suddenly he nearly collided with her. Oh my God! Ahead, partially hidden by fallen logs, lay Natasha. She was unconscious, her hiking clothes torn and dirty, a bleeding gash on her forehead. But she was breathing, her chest rising and falling steadily. Marcus dropped to his knees beside her, his hands shaking as he checked her pulse. Natasha. Natasha, can you hear me? Beside her was something that made his brain struggle to process what he was seeing, debris from what could only be a spacecraft. Twisted metal that seemed to shimmer with internal light, panels covered in symbols that definitely weren't human, and scorch marks indicating a crash landing. We need to get her to a hospital, Keisha said, already pulling out her phone. Damn it, no signal. There's a ranger station about 5 miles back. My cabin is closer, 2 miles east. It has a landline and a first aid kit. Marcus carefully lifted Natasha, cradling her against his chest. She felt too light, too fragile, and the sight of blood on her face made his heart clench. They moved as quickly as they dared through the forest. Marcus's arms burned from carrying her, but he refused to stop, refused to let Keisha take over. This woman in his arms had spent years trying to reach him emotionally while he'd been too blind to notice. The least he could do now was carry her to safety. The cabin appeared through the trees, a modest structure Marcus had bought years ago for weekend retreats he never took. Inside, he laid Natasha gently on the couch while Keisha called emergency services on the landline. As Marcus cleaned the wound on her forehead, Natasha's eyes fluttered open. For a moment she looked disoriented, then her gaze focused on his face. Marcus? Her voice was weak, confused. What are you doing here? Looking for you. His throat was tight. You scared us half to death. The signal. I found her. Marcus, I found her. Despite her obvious pain, excitement lit Natasha's eyes. She's real. She's hurt but she's real. Who, Natasha? Who did you find? The visitor. The one I've been searching for my whole life. Natasha insisted on returning to the crash site despite Keisha's protests and Marcus's concern. The head wound was superficial, she argued, and someone out there needed help, someone who'd traveled across the stars and might be dying alone in the forest. This is insane, Keisha said as they hiked back through the darkening woods, flashlights cutting through the gloom. We should wait for authorities. And what? Let them take her to some government facility? Dissect her like a lab specimen? Natasha's voice held fierce protectiveness. She came in peace, Keisha. She's running from something, and she needs help. Marcus watched his wife move with renewed energy despite her injury, her passion blazing bright. This was the woman he'd fallen in love with, fearless, compassionate, driven by wonder rather than caution. When had he stopped seeing that fire in her? When had he started viewing her dreams as inconveniences? They reached the crash site as full darkness fell. The spacecraft debris glowed faintly with bioluminescent qualities, casting eerie purple light across the clearing. Natasha moved toward a section of intact hull, touching it gently. Lyra, she called softly. It's okay. I brought help. Friends. For a long moment, nothing. Then the debris shifted, and a figure emerged that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. She was humanoid but unmistakably alien. Her skin was a deep, luminous purple that seemed to shift in the flashlight beams, her hair flowing like liquid midnight. She moved with grace despite obvious injury, one arm cradled protectively against her side. When she looked at them, her eyes were large and expressive, silver with violet depths that held intelligence and pain. Natasha, the being said, her voice melodic despite its weakness. You returned. Of course I did. Natasha moved to support her. Lyra, this is my sister Keisha and Marcus. My husband. They're here to help. Lyra's silver gaze fixed on Marcus with unnerving intensity. The one who broke your heart with absence. Marcus felt the words like a punch. Natasha must have talked about him during their first contact, shared her pain with this stranger from the stars. Yes, he said quietly. The one who's trying to do better. Trying is insufficient. Lyra winced, pain flickering across her features. But you are here. That is something. They moved Lyra carefully back to the cabin, supporting her between them. Her biology was similar enough to human that her injuries were recognizable: broken ribs, internal trauma, severe exhaustion. But Keisha, with her nursing background, noted differences in her physiology that were fascinating and terrifying. We can't take her to a hospital, Marcus said as they settled Lyra on the guest room bed. They'd never let her go. I know. Natasha sat beside the alien, checking her pulse, faster than human but steady. Lyra, what do you need? How can we help you heal? My ship's medical bay has regeneration technology. Lyra's breathing was labored. But it requires power I don't have. And time I may not have either. My people hunt me. They believe I've betrayed them by refusing to participate in our endless wars. You fled a war? Keisha asked. I fled genocide. My world tears itself apart over resources and ideology. I'm a scientist, not a soldier. I sought sanctuary among the stars. Lyra's eyes closed. I never intended to crash here. Your planet's magnetic fields are more complex than my scans indicated. Over the following days, they worked to keep Lyra stable and hidden. Marcus used his business connections to acquire medical supplies without raising suspicions, while Keisha applied her nursing skills adapted for alien physiology. But it was Natasha who spent hours with Lyra, learning about her world, sharing humanity's own struggles with violence and division. Marcus watched them together, his wife and this visitor from beyond the stars, and saw Natasha transformed. Every conversation with Lyra brought light to her eyes. Every new piece of knowledge about alien civilization made her glow with wonder. One evening, Marcus found Natasha alone on the cabin's porch, staring up at the stars. "She's from there," Natasha said softly, gesturing to the sky. "Somewhere out there, under different constellations, on a world we've never seen. And she's here, talking to us. Trusting us. It's everything I've dreamed about." Marcus stepped closer, close enough to catch the familiar scent of her shampoo mixed with forest air. "I'm sorry I never understood. I'm sorry I made you feel like your dreams were less important than my deals and my ambitions." Natasha looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in months. "Why now, Marcus? Why do you care now when you were so ready to sign those papers?" "Because almost losing you made me realize I'd already lost you long before any accident." He moved to stand beside her, their shoulders nearly touching. "I loved you so much when we met. You were giving a lecture on extremophiles and I couldn't look away. You made the universe feel bigger and more wonderful, and I wanted to explore it with you." "That man disappeared," Natasha said, her voice tight with emotion. "He became someone who saw my work as a hobby. Who acted like searching for life beyond Earth was childish fantasy. I know. I became exactly the kind of person I used to mock, so focused on money and success that I forgot what actually mattered." Marcus turned to face her. "But watching you with Lyra, seeing your passion, your brilliance, your compassion, I remember why I fell in love with you. And I realize I never stopped loving you. I just stopped showing it." Tears slid down Natasha's cheeks. "You hurt me, Marcus. You made me feel small and foolish for caring about things you couldn't quantify with profit margins. I know. And I'm so sorry." He reached up, gently wiping her tears with his thumb. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect another chance. But I need you to know that you were right to leave me. You deserved someone who celebrated your dreams instead of diminishing them." Natasha's hand came up to cover his, holding it against her cheek. "What if I told you I wanted that someone to be you? The person you used to be, the person I see glimpses of now? I'd say I want that too. More than anything." They stood there in the starlight, years of pain and distance hanging between them. Then Natasha closed the gap, kissing him with tentative hope. Marcus responded carefully, reverently, pouring every apology and promise into the gesture. When they parted, both were crying. "We can't just go back," Natasha whispered. "Too much has broken." "I know. So we'll build something new. Something better." Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "If you'll let me." Inside the cabin, Lyra watched through the window, a smile crossing her purple features despite her pain. Perhaps love could bridge any distance, even the space between two hearts that had drifted apart. Lyra's ship hummed with renewed energy on their final night together, its purple glow illuminating the forest clearing like a beacon from another world. Marcus and Natasha stood hand in hand, watching the alien make final preparations while Keisha documented everything with quiet reverence. "This is really happening," Keisha breathed. "First contact. And only we know about it. As it should be." Lyra turned to them, her silver eyes warm with affection. "I came here broken and hunted. You gave me sanctuary when revealing me would have brought you fame and resources. That kindness is rarer than you know." She approached them, carrying a crystalline device that pulsed with inner light. "This contains knowledge from my people, advanced physics, medical techniques, sustainable energy solutions. Use it wisely. Share it slowly so your world can adapt without chaos." Natasha accepted it with trembling hands. "Lyra, this is too much. We can't." "You can. You must." The alien touched Natasha's face gently with purple fingers. You sought connection across the stars when others said you were foolish. You found me. You saved me. Now I give you tools to save yourselves. Lyra turned to Marcus. And you, Marcus Reed. You were given a second chance that many never receive. Honor it. Choose love over ambition. Choose presence over absence. I will. Marcus's voice was thick with emotion. I promise. Good. Lyra's expression softened as she looked between Marcus and Natasha. My world forgot that some things matter more than conquest and resources. We abandoned love, dismissed art, eliminated anything that couldn't be weaponized. That's why we tear ourselves apart now. Don't let your world make the same mistake. She embraced each of them, first Keisha, then Natasha, finally Marcus. Her body was warm despite its alien nature, her touch conveying farewell and hope. Will we see you again? Natasha asked, tears streaming down her face. Perhaps. The universe is vast but not infinite. And now you know you're not alone. Lyra smiled. Keep searching the stars, Natasha. Others will find you. Make sure humanity is ready to greet them with wisdom. They watched as Lyra entered her ship, the hull sealing seamlessly behind her. The craft lifted silently, hovering for a moment as if in final goodbye. Then it streaked upward, becoming a purple star that vanished into the greater darkness above. Silence settled over the clearing, broken only by Keisha's quiet sobs. We just said goodbye to an alien, Marcus said wonderingly. We made first contact, and nobody else will ever believe us. I have documentation, Keisha protested. Photos, videos, medical scans. That governments would confiscate and bury. Natasha squeezed her sister's shoulder. Lyra's gift is enough. We'll share her knowledge carefully, through proper channels, attributed to research breakthroughs. That's safer for everyone. They returned to the cabin in contemplative silence. In the morning, they'd have to return to civilization, explain their absence, face the consequences of dropping off the grid. But tonight, they sat together under the stars, processing what they'd experienced. So, Keisha said finally, looking between Marcus and Natasha. Are you two back together, or am I going to have to hit him with a frying pan? Natasha laughed, the sound free and genuine. We're trying. Taking it day by day. With complete transparency and regular communication, Marcus added. And therapy. Definitely couples therapy. Good. Keisha's fierce protectiveness softened. Because Marcus, if you hurt my sister again. I know. Frying pan. I deserve it. He pulled Natasha closer. But I won't. I've spent the last year being the kind of man I'm ashamed of. I want to spend the next 50 being someone she can be proud of. 50 years? Natasha raised an eyebrow. At minimum. I'm hoping for 60. She kissed him softly. We'll start with 1. Then see where it goes. The next morning, they drove back to Seattle. Marcus called his partners and announced he was taking a sabbatical, no negotiations, no compromises. He'd built the company, they could manage without him while he rebuilt his marriage. At the lawyer's office, Linda Chen looked shocked when they walked in together, hands clasped. We won't be needing those papers, Marcus said. Cancel the divorce. But the signatures are all prepared. Doesn't matter. Natasha smiled up at Marcus. We're not getting divorced. We're getting a second chance. They tore up the documents together, each piece falling like confetti celebrating rebirth. That evening, Marcus took Natasha to dinner at the restaurant where they'd had their first date 9 years ago. He'd memorized her current coffee order, researched her recent publications, and planned a weekend getaway to a dark sky preserve where she could observe the stars she loved. This is good, Natasha said, watching him across the candlelit table. This feels like you. The real you. This is me remembering what matters. Marcus reached across to take her hand. I'm never forgetting again. Above them, the universe turned on its axis, vast and mysterious and full of possibility. Somewhere out there, Lyra traveled home, carrying hope that love could bridge any distance. And on Earth, two people who'd almost lost each other built something new from the wreckage of what they'd been, stronger, wiser, and committed to choosing each other every single day. The stars, Natasha thought, had given her more than proof of alien life. They'd given her back the one person who made looking at them meaningful. And that, she decided, was the greatest discovery of all.